found it to be true, and my wife told me this, I didn't know this. But the best thing to do for phone interviews is to actually stand up while you're talking on the phone. And that gives you some energy, because once in a while when you talk on the phone and you sit down and you start to slouch like you're talking to your girlfriend, you lose that energy. And usually when you have phone interview, after it's gone on for a while, the 15 minutes, you see people starting to get really relaxed because nobody can see them. And they get really chilled out, and then the answer starts to be a little bit drony and longer and stuff. So one of the tricks is stand up. You have one of those cordless phones, that's probably a good thing. Stand up and walk around and talk.
And sorry, by cordless, he means like,
Yeah, you guys know what a phone is, right? not a cell phone. All right.
I brought stuff for you to write on if you
Why am I lower than you? That can't be. I'm an interviewer, right? Oh. Welcome to my level.
We've already messed up.
You want to come in? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, we're going to do the whole thing. Okay. Hi, welcome. I'm Han Ong.
Hi, Vanessa Fitzanaki.
Nice to meet you. Have a seat,
nice
please. Yep, please have a seat. Let's see. So you're from Sullivan County? Where is that at?
It's in the northeast part of Tennessee, out past Knoxville.
Now, past Knoxville, like far into Virginia, or just before Virginia?
Well, actually, Sullivan. Oh, sorry.
You're chewing gum.
So actually, Sullivan County borders part of the Virginia side. So if you can imagine that Tennessee is kind of that pointy part, then Sullivan County is kind of right up there in that northeast point.
Cool, very nice. So what brings you here? Why are you interested in our program?
Well, I've done quite a bit of research about the different people that are in the department and everything, and based on the work that I've done, I think I would be a really good fit.
Have you been looking at other places other than this program here?
I have, actually.
Okay. Anything you want to say about the other programs as compared to this one?
Oh, well, one of the things that I really like about this program is that it's multidisciplinary. And so some of the ones that I've been looking at, they really only focus on one group. So for example, some of the programs that I looked at only looked at neuroscience. They didn't really look at the neuropsychology that I'm really interested in. And so the program here actually brings in people from multiple disciplines, and I was really interested in that.
Very good. And in fact, we are really interdisciplinary. We have expertise from across the board in neuroscience. But what makes you a good candidate? I mean, what aspect of your undergraduate training makes you a good candidate for a program that's interdisciplinary in neuroscience?
Well, not only did I take neuroscience courses, but I also had a lot of chemistry, and I think that's going to allow me to better understand the physiology. I also took some physics classes, and I think the important part about the physics classes, at least for me, was that it was material I had to struggle with, and that really kind of taught me like how to approach the material differently and how to think differently than what I was used to in taking some of the neuroscience and biology classes that I did.
Okay. So what aspect of neuroscience are you particularly interested in, or tell me something about your background of you as a person and your interests in life that makes you want to pursue this as a career?
Well, I think the aspect of neuroscience that I'm really interested in relates to how maybe different chemicals affect the brain or affect the nervous system. I grew up on a farm and we had a lot of pesticide exposure, and I really began to kind of wonder what that might have, how that might affect me, or how that might have affected my parents, because they grew up around that too. So I'm kind of interested, and really that would kind of bring my chemistry into it as well. And so I'm really interested in maybe looking at how environmental agents or something kind of interact with the nervous system.
Good. What do you see yourself doing in 10 years?
Well, I've thought about it like through graduate school. So I've thought about, kind of pursuing maybe some of the neuro-environmental aspect here. And then And then I would really like to get a postdoc that kind of builds on that research. So, for example, I've noticed that a lot of people here do a lot of research with flies and with worms and with zebrafish. And I think that what I would like to do is get really well trained in that, because those are really important model systems. But then maybe do a postdoc in an area that would allow me to also learn how to use animals. Like not the worms and things, but like rats and mice and things like that.
And money's not a big deal, right?
Well, I mean, I would like to make enough money that, you know, I can live comfortably, but money hasn't really been something that I've taken into consideration whenever looking for graduate school, for example.
Okay. So if you have to put yourself in an environment of, you know, personnel, what types of people would you prefer to work with? I mean, what makes you comfortable? What kind of environment makes you comfortable to be productive for the next 5, 6 years of research?
I work really well with people that are hardworking and driven, and I'm very goal-oriented, so that really helps me a lot. If I have people that are also goal-oriented, but I know that kind of coming into grad school, I'm going to have to maybe change some of that a little bit, because I'm kind of used to being like, towards the top of my class, and I know that coming into graduate school, I'm probably not going to be in the top of the class. I mean, I want to go for that and stuff, but I think I'm probably going to have to learn how to work with other people too.
So invariably, you'll be in an environment where you will have to deal with somebody. And this may not be somebody you like to work with or care about or have coffee with outside of the lab, but you still have to work with that person. And that person is really abrasive, and then you just really can't stand, on a personal level, being with that person, but you still have to be a team player. What are your strategies in trying to ease the situation or make yourself a team player?
Well, I think that by trying to maybe understand that person's background a little bit, maybe that person is coming from a different culture or maybe a different place in the U.S. than what I'm used to. And so I think the first thing I would probably try to do is try to understand why they're responding that way. But then I think that I'm usually pretty good at compartmentalizing, and so I think I have the ability to try to maintain a professional relationship without having to worry too much about whether or not we get along well outside of maybe class or lab.
And that's an important thing, is to be able to get along. What will be your measure of a successful PhD? I mean, we do have students here who are just checking off the list and, you know, have the run-of-the-mill PhD, and, you know, the reason why they got a PhD is because we really want to get them out of here, not because we really want to give them a PhD. But for you, what will be a good PhD in your opinion, and how would you describe sort of the achievements that are involved in a successful PhD?
Well, I expect to be challenged in classes and kind of taken beyond what I learned whenever I was at the undergraduate level. I think if I'm not learning, if I'm not building on those foundations, then I'm probably not going to be challenged, which is going to make me bored. So I'm very interested in making sure that I'm challenged in those classes. I also would like the opportunity to present at meetings, and I understand that first and second year graduate students don't usually get that opportunity, but I would hope that I would be in a lab where, as I move throughout, that person allows me to present at meetings. My writing is okay, so I expect to be challenged in the writing aspect, and I would really like to have, you know, 2 or 3 papers before I finish. And my understanding from talking to some of the students this morning is that most professors and most committees expect at least two, and sometimes the third one is a bonus, but at least one first author paper and then, you know, another one that, or two that go with it.
That's certainly setting a very high standard there, and I agree that that will be a pretty good PhD that you learn from there. I don't really have anything else I want to ask you about. Do you have any questions for us that I can answer you?
Do you know what the average time it is that it takes for students in this particular department to normally get their PhDs?
It depends on model organism. I mean, if you think about biology, if you're working with microbes, those things multiply and reproduce really, really fast. And it's somewhat common to hear of people getting their PhD in 5 years, sometimes a little bit less. But in general, I would say 5 is the average. 6 is not unheard of. 7 and 8 still possible, but beyond 8, we really have a problem. So we would try to keep it on the average of 5 to 6. 4 will be pretty rare. I mean, unless you're super accomplished and we're in a breakthrough and you found something really novel. But I would say between 5 to 6 years.
And do students usually get a lot of funding?
Funding, it really depends. I mean, for the first few years, you are supported by means of the department and a few gathering of a few funding from the PI. But we certainly encourage you to apply for all these other fundings that are available. There is a dissertation grant for most of our students who are really popular in applying for that towards the end of their career over here. There are certainly also NIH training grant for students after the first or second year if they can come up with a good proposal to do that. But there are various private organizations that also have grants available. And it really depends on your model system and what you're working with. Some of these apply to you, some of them don't. So it really case by case basis.
And how many students is the department taking this year?
On average, I think we're taking about 20. Yeah, we'll put more offers out there, but we usually have about 20 incoming students every year for this program. So it's pretty competitive. I would say usually we have about 500 to 600 applicants, and from that we take about 20. Okay, cool, good. We hope to see you here.
Well, thanks.
And good luck for the rest of your interview.
Thank you.
We'll see you later during dinner or something.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later. You want to give the postmortem?
Me or send Dr. Pippen?
Anybody.
Let's see what they picked up.
And also maybe we want to survey some of the students who recently had interviews. Talk to them about their fears and their apprehensions and the kind of curveball that they didn't expect during the interviews and things that come up from.
What do you want to fill in first?
What was good first?
They did research.
Avoided about talking about other schools. Avoided talking about other programs.
I debated out how much of that to go into, actually.
That's always a tough one, too. What else?
You had questions to ask.
Yeah, ask questions.
You did set good standards for yourself.
I can't remember one more.
I think most of your ideas were complete.
I thought about throwing one, so, yeah, in, but I didn't. Okay, do you want to do or bad next?
Let's add to that last one. It's nice if your reason for going to the school?
I've always been a Volunteers fan.
That's right.
That's why I'm coming here.
That actually kind of depends on who you're talking to.
If it's a booster, then yeah.
If they bring it up,
Yes.
That's
yes,
good.
Yes.
Yeah, it would be good for you to know the mascot, just in case someone asks about that.
who's the coach?
Right.
Nah.
No, you didn't.
But I mean, you don't want to go to like, you don't want to interview at Alabama and talk about,
Roll Tide.
well,
Tigers?
you talk about, yeah, and talk about the Tigers.
You're the
right?
Alabama Tigers?
It's like the Tennessee Tide, Tennessee Crimson Tide. I mean, that would be about, you know,
Yeah,
The
right.
Georgia Chihuahua.
the Georgia Chihuahuas. That would be really funny.
Another way of saying that last thought is that, Vanessa, you had thought about some of the reasons why you wanted to pursue certain aspects of the research and maybe even the instruction that the department was good at. And that's the sort of thing, if you know the department in research to university, you can tie your answer in with complete ideas and thoughts. And even ask your professors here, if you have a particular one that has expertise in an area, say, do you know anything about the professors at yada, yada, yada? And maybe I could tell you, or maybe Dr. Pickard could tell you about some of the professors that you ought to pay attention to.
So for graduate school, you'd be wanting to know things about the department. For clinical schools, you'd want to know, do they have specialties there? Do they have specialty rotations? Do they do off-site rotations for pharmacy school? Do they do off-site rotations for vet school? Are all of their rotations on campus? Do they have an exceptionally good psychiatric department or an exceptionally good psychiatric rotation, and you're really interested in psych? Because that's going to let you know, up front whether that rotation will let you know what's going on.
Elaborate more on like the avoid other programs. I mean, is it good, bad? Yeah.
So this one is always a bit tricky. I didn't think that I handled it. This probably can go here as well,
Yeah.
right? So this was because the good thing that Melissa picked up on was that I didn't go on and on about how much I really liked the program or how much I really liked the interview at, University Z. But I really wasn't prepared for him to ask me about other programs that I had looked at. So this was bad because I wasn't prepared. It was good that I didn't go on and on about how good someone else's program is.
You want to be realistic also. You can't say, no, I'm not looking at anywhere else. I'm just putting all my eggs in this basket. I'm coming to your university. And that's kind of a lie. I mean, everybody can pick up on that. When you apply for graduate schools, you're applying everywhere. When you're applying for medical schools, you apply several places. So be truthful, but at the same time, don't go harp on other things. Nor are you going to keep just saying, no, this is the awesome one. Others, I really don't care. Those are honest. I mean, don't turn it into something that is untruthful. Be truthful about it, but don't harp on something.
And most schools, so the one that I'm most familiar with is Vanderbilt. Most students that apply to Vanderbilt for graduate school or for medical school have also applied to Wake, Johns Hopkins, Emory,
Duke.
and Duke. Yeah, those four. And so they know, right? So if this had been an interview at Vanderbilt and I had listed East Tennessee State University, not that there's anything wrong with that, but looking at where ETSU's rankings are compared to rankings of the department that I graduated from at Vanderbilt, if my other options had been ETSU, University of Phoenix, online PhD, Stanford, and Mississippi State, right? They would have kind of questioned, what in the world what kind of student am I? Did I look at these programs? Did I just randomly draw them out of a hat? So that's the other thing that they know what to look for. So they expect that you've applied somewhere, so they probably know they probably know one or two places where you've looked. So I wasn't prepared to address this. But I could go on and on.
The other thing that I would try to do if I were in your situation would have been to tell them generally the type of schools I was looking at. If I were looking at top schools across the South
Right.
in biology, I would mention I'm looking at several top schools in the South. I'd like to stay in the region, but I haven't really decided on a specific school yet, but yours look very interesting.
Yeah, and that is the exact way that it should have been answered. In which case we wouldn't have had to put this in the end. What else? It may be easier to do the bad things. Maybe there weren't any bad things. There were one or two.
Your posture. Yeah. You kept putting your hands in. Glasses, playing with your glasses. And the gum.
Kind of shocked me. I was like, you're not as
Said like and stuff like that.
I actually had to ask someone before I came upstairs. Give me gum, and you didn't know what you were doing. So, posture.
Glasses.
Yeah, I shouldn't have had glasses on my head at all. But I thought, well, shoot, they're on there, so let's do something with them. And you'll know what this means, right? It's not like you can't have your glasses on.
No
You
eye
were
contact.
scratching when you were looking for something to say too, just so it's a nervous habit.
I'm going to kind of go with nervous hand movements. Because it wasn't just that, I'd kind of go, right, and I kind of had to think about how to do that. It wasn't just this. I mean, there were a couple of things I intentionally did. So yes, I did that a couple of times. So for those of you on camera, Callie was doing this, right? And so a couple of times I did that and then kind of caught myself, put my hands down, right? And yes, and then it probably wasn't so bad that I sat and kind of had my legs crossed and kind of had my hands on my knee or something like that. But this was not good so much. This was even worse. I loved this. This was kind of an inspirational moment there at the last minute. Trying to convey, yes, I'm really interested in what you're saying. But it's a little creepy because this is an interview, right? So
You don't want to be too stiff also. You don't want to be always resting. You want some kind of gesticulation to it.
The other thing you did well, which is sort of, the other thing you did well, which is sort of implicit in your good list, is you listened well. And that's very important to do.
What about her answers, which is really what the interview is about, more than anything else? They're wanting to see how she answered. So what about her answers?
Well, she never said, well, she did say, but she never said, I don't know, or I'm not sure. And she took her time to answer the question, but she never stopped talking. So she may have said like the first few words a little slower to gather her thoughts.
And I think we've mentioned that. She had an answer, complete ideas. I think that was really good, and that's been mentioned. Some things that were maybe negative or not just mediocre. What, did you pick up on anything?
Too much pause, like in some questions you were like, you think, like actually as if you're thinking for the very first time. If
That's
you had to
actually a good
prepare
thing,
for it.
so on. I would argue that actually is a good thing. And too many times we fall into that category of I would call Americanism, where you start talking before you think first. So for the first 5 seconds, you're just putting in fillers. Well, I don't know, I guess. Well, let me think about this. And so your mouth is going, but your brain is going at the same time. And that may actually be, I don't know, somewhat off-putting in a while. But if you look at people of sort of the British Isles and stuff like that, long pauses are not as uncomfortable for them as it is here in America. Whereby you ask somebody a question and they go, well, what I actually think is, and that to us is very uncomfortable because we're not used to that kind of setting. But it really depends. I mean, you need to show us something, some sort of indicator that you are thinking about a question, that you're not just putting out canned answers one by one.
But looking at a horizon as if you're actually
That,
thinking,
I agree with you, that may be a little bit more off-putting that you are just.
You don't want to look like you rehearsed everything either.
Exactly. You don't want to immediately before the question is over, you're like, here's what I think is going on. You know what I mean? That sounds like you already practiced this, rehearsed this, it's so canned that you're just waiting to listen, let it out.
What about when she was asked about research ideas? How did you think she did that?
too specific. Like going through animals, and I like this but not that, but this animal but not that one. I like mice but not worms. That's like,
Actually,
that
Solomon, I would have said just the opposite. I would have said if she could have been more specific, particularly about work that was going on there, then that would have been a huge plus. I'm really interested in Professor so-and-so's work with such and such organism. What did she say instead? Well, I like the worms and the flies, and you know, I think I'm going to do something with that. I mean, that was like wow, ditzy sort of answer almost. I mean, for somebody interested in research like that. She probably needed to focus in and talk about something that was going on there. That would have really won their heart.
Nothing shows detailed research, you know, like dropping names when you're focusing
Right.
on this person.
It's like,
And whatever he's doing, man, it's so cool, and I really love what this person is doing and that. And so that shows the depth of your research, other than, yeah, I guess some people here work with flies and work with, you know, that's
And
kind of the knowledge.
particularly if that means you've researched it, and if you knew what this guy, the interviewer, was working on, I mean, wow. I mean, you have just, he's on your hook now. He really is. Because you know about his work. Oh my gosh, you like his work. He's all over that.
And
He is all over that.
have we had anybody interview for graduate school yet? Emily, did you need to know, did you get a list before you interviewed of who the people were going to be on your committees? Okay. Aaron, you're going this week. Michelle, did you know who was on your committee? Did you know who was on the admissions committee before you went down there?
Yeah, I contacted a couple people.
Okay. So for graduate programs, it's not uncommon for you to know who's going to be on your committee, or if they specify, do you have research interests with these faculty, those faculty will often appear on your admissions committee. So for graduate work, and for programs, for clinical programs, I don't have clinical up here, for clinical programs that require some sort of research, and this is becoming more and more common, then look at, even if it's the morning of, right, look at who's on your committee if you have that information, and try to remember one or two things about those people. That way, whenever they show up, you know, you can at least say, you know, I see that you're interested in, or I read that you were interested in, you know, or whatever. But don't, if you haven't, if all you did was look on the website and read one sentence, don't engage them too much, right? Because then it's like asking me to talk to you about neuroscience. Pretty soon it's whoosh, and you're way in over your head. John.
The other thing that you can do is you can tell the person, well, I know that either you or your department is good at this. Are there any other emerging areas that I should know about, or something like that? So put the question back, and they know you're interested in their research that's going on when you ask the question.
That's really good. The other thing that does is that these interviews are usually about 15 to 20 minutes each. And if you can trick them into talking for 2 or 3 minutes about what they're doing, it's less time you have to talk. Any other things in here that you saw?
no eye contact.
Yeah, and that,
Most scientists are introverts, and if they see somebody that doesn't make a lot of eye contact, they're probably not going to be way upset with that, although it's a plus if you do.
clinicians, med school's a little different.
Med school's much different. Med school's much different. But graduate research, I mean, most of them are introverts, you know, and so they're probably going to be okay with that.
If you find yourself in the interview and you kind of locked eyes with somebody and you're talking to them the whole time and they begin to kind of get a little nervous, then that may be the indication you need to look away just for a second, just to give them a break.
That's right, because they're probably introverts too.
Yeah,
Do you,
like-
bring, do you bring your phone out?
I did. Actually, I was checking to see what time it was.